Good morning, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully. How is my sound this morning?
Not too bad. Can you get a little bit closer to your microphone?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, how is this? Is this a little better?
Yeah, that's better. That's better. How am I sounding?
You're sounding good to me. Am I
Okay.
a little tinny? I'm always concerned about sound. Am I a little tinny? I'm trying to set up here okay.
I think you're okay. I'm going to give you a chance just to share this morning before we get too far in it to do a mic check. But what's the weather like in Arizona City?
Wow, it's actually getting a little muggy as usual this morning, but we had a big storm last night. And it was just kind of over our little region here. Winds probably 40, 50 miles an hour and lots of rain. So when I got up my usual 4 o'clock this morning, it was nice and cool and refreshed. But back to a normal day. It'll be over 100 degrees today in Arizona City, but I am just loving it.
Awesome. Okay, your sound is really good. I'm going to just do a little check here. Welcome the
Okay.
early birds to the show this morning. It's the AB 51 podcast, episode 13 today. We've got a whole collection of episodes this season for you. It's hard to pick a favorite because we really serve you up meat and potatoes every episode. And today will be no different on the AB 51 podcast. Join us online at ab51podcast.com. I'm Val Olson. I'm your host. And today, Greg Meakin drops by because he has breaking news. But we're not going to get to that breaking news just yet. I'm going to give you a chance just to settle in. I'm pouring myself, Greg, you might be able to hear me in the background, pouring myself a delicious glass of peach iced tea because it's one of those days. I feel like I can just sit back, have a glass of iced tea, and just get pumped up based on what you're going to share this morning. You've got some exciting numbers for us. I love when you talk numbers. Okay, we've lost Greg.
Oh no, here I am. I'm sorry. I think I had a little Arizona City moment. I'm good here, Val. Can you still hear me
I
nicely?
can I can hear you okay. It's the AB 51 podcast broadcasting live this morning. It's a big day. We're moments away from kicking off what I call the numbers show. That's what I'm going to call it, the numbers show on episode 13. Greg's the guy who carries around a bag full of numbers. Greg, you've got those fresh numbers for us. I don't want to know what numbers in particular you've got, but you do have an update for us today, correct?
Well, I certainly do. I'm glad you brought that up, Val. Uh, the Lots of numbers today. We've got the results. It's July 31st, special day, of course, and at the end of the polling, the extended part of the polling for the AB 51 vote.com poll. So I've got numbers from that. A lot of interesting numbers. As a matter of fact, I put out a press release very, very recently in the last hour. And I would bet you, because you're so confident in your investigative journalism, bet you've seen that press release already with some of the numbers. And so that's exciting stuff for sure to talk about, and hopefully sooner than later. Before I start, I love to do the quick reach out. July 31st is a special day for my family in that my twin boys are turning 34 years of age today, Val. So it's a Carson and Colton's birthday. I always do a shout out to them. Special day. I can't believe it's been 34 years. You remember when your kids were born, and boy, it seems like yesterday. So real proud of those twin boys. They're up in Washington State. So just wanted to do a shout out on that one for July 31st.
Oh, happy birthday, the birthday boys, hitting 34 today. July 31st, the end of something old and the beginning of something new. Alberta, you can keep those party hats on. Don't take them off because all the talk in the world right now is centered on Alberta, USA. There is a movement, a growing momentum that is hitting that province unlike anything in the history of Alberta, so full of hope that I've ever read about in history. In fact, that's because we are making history. This is the Alberta 51 podcast. I'm your host, Val Olson, and we have an entire season on our website at ab51podcast.com. You can listen to all 13 episodes on demand. I like to go for a walk, put my headphones on, and listen. We serve up the best of the best. And there's no dull moments on our show, that's for sure. We couldn't do this without the love and support of our sponsors. I want to give a shout out this morning to all of my friends at Patriot Switch. You can check out my brand new store, patriotswitch.com/Val. You're going to find over 400 products, like really good stuff. Greg, I just want to take a minute because I'm pouring iced tea. I'm sitting back. Today's a numbers show. And you know what makes numbers go down easier? A glass of peach iced tea. So that's what I'm enjoying this morning. And of course, you can always shop at my store. Or if you're like me, you like samples and coupons, reach out to me personally and I will set you up. I'm easy to find on Twitter, of course, at Home Media Mom. You can go on, where else? YouTube, you can find me there. Or my website. That's where breaking news hangs out, valolsonnews.com, where new news gets its news. Speaking of which, I might be breaking international news this morning based on the press release that came across my desk. Thanks to Greg Meakin. Greg, let's talk a little bit about July 31st and what this represents for Alberta. Why is today such a big day?
Well, I think to me, in my mind and my heart, because this has been almost a 2-year journey, Val, as you know, just kind of this Alberta 51 and the mission, the movement, the desire for freedom. But it's a big day in that it's the first time in my heart, I'm kind of getting a feel for Alberta and what the actual numbers are up there. As simple as it sounds, I approach everything in life like a CEO. And 2 years ago, I continued to ask people, okay, well, if a free and fair referendum were held up in Alberta, with the question being, do you want Alberta to be the 51st state of the United States? Yes, no, or undecided. I simply could not get that answer. The answers were all over the place. And you say all over the place. I have a friend back in Ottawa, believe it or not, Val, who thought the number would be about 5%. 5%, yes. Okay. So, I mean, they're all over the place. So I said, my simple question is, okay, what's the number? And whether right, wrong, or somewhere in between, I feel in my heart I've got it. I did a press release this morning releasing what we found up to this point. What is July 31st, 2023 for Albertans right now? I would say it's the end of the beginning. That's what I would say. I'd go Winston Churchill on this, saying that's the end of the beginning. Because everything I'm seeing, and I was totaling, I think, as you know, I was totaling numbers at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just to make sure I felt comfortable. And I determined that 857,523 Albertans, eligible Albertans, would vote yes. That's my number. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. We'll delve into it a little bit more. But what that basically tells me is, let's go for it. I've got plenty in my quiver right now to at least begin chit-chatting with the U.S. Senate. That's down the road. So I assure people just, kind of don't even worry on that end. But I got the answer in my heart. And there's obviously lots and lots of discussion and dissection to go into it and stuff. But I would kind of not throw you a little curveball here, Val, but I think it's important enough. And the timestamp's July 31st. I don't know if you indeed have that press release available to you. I'll bet you do.
I do. It's fresh right off the press.
What I would do, I don't want to throw you a curveball, but I think this is important. Everything until the city-state discussion, but just those top 2 or 3 paragraphs at the beginning of that press release, and finishing with the 5 conditions. I think it's really, really important. And as you know, you're my favorite reader. Maybe to just put that on the record here, just stick that on tape. And I'd like to even hear it myself, audio wise. I think it's important enough. And of course, that press release can be found on my website, which is gregmeakin.com. And it's always on my trending section. Most of all of this Alberta 51 stuff is on my trending section, as was this press release this morning. And as were you, Val Olson News, where new news gets its news. I think you were the first person to lay eyes on this press release. So I thank you for that. But quick little reading until after the conditions would be awesome. I think people would enjoy that.
All right. July 31st, 2023, 857,523 yes votes. Final results and projections. July 31st, 2023. Do you know Alberta to become the 51st state of the United States? Sorry, do you want Alberta to become the 51st state of the United States? If a provincial referendum was called today, what would the numbers look like? 857,523 yes votes from 154 cities. This projection is the result of a combination online poll conducted since March 2023, as well as pledges and totals from Alberta groups, political parties, Indian tribes, and others. This polling process is grassroots, private, and 100% independent. There has been no outside funding or marketing, and there are no political parties involved. It is based in Arizona and was established to determine if the U.S. Senate would garner interest in extending a formal invitation for Alberta to rejoin the United States as her 51st state. Required conditions for 2024 Alberta referendum. Number 1, the referendum question must be a clear up or down question as above. Number 2, all voters must read the brochure before voting in process. Number 3, the referendum must be as a result of the U.S. Senate Alberta 51 invitation. Voters must be guaranteed 100% privacy. Number 5, voters must show up and vote. Walk the talk.
That was great. That was great. It sounds good on audio, and I'll tell you what people don't realize is there's almost 2 years behind that. 2 years behind that, there's really so much to discuss, Val. But how's that for just blockbuster numbers? You know what those numbers mean. You know, if you talk 857,000 votes or people identified as yes voters, you talk about those numbers, you're getting right there. You're, in layman's terms, you're getting right there to be able to win any Alberta election, never mind referendum. It's right up there. Remember, Danielle Smith won last election in May with, going off of memory, I think it was 930-some thousand votes. So it's really digging into the entire electorate there. But there's still, there's still questions. The toughest thing, if you don't mind me just kind of chit-chatting a little bit, Val, is my sound okay? Am I coming okay?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear. Take your time. You're at a real interesting part here. You're getting into the inside of Alberta politics. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, there's so much to discuss, and this really is, as you know, Val, okay, here's my trivia of the day, right? Here's my first secret from the inside. You ready for this one? I love live radio because I never know what I'm even going to say. You know what I mean, Val? Here's trivia. You want to see how, at least inside, as far as following this process, documenting and participating, I'm going to award you, Val Olson, the very, very first vote on the ab51.com website. Very first. I am talking March the 2nd. Just after noon, it was 12:03. March 2nd, 2023, the first vote was cast. And you will remember, I'm sure, again, how's this for trivia, right? Get off track right out of the gate, Val. But you remember, because we were so particular about this. We had our small team. We had you, me, Gordon Kessler was involved. We know Sheriff Mark Lamb's been involved from the beginning. Our teams, we have Mike Phillip, goodness gracious, up in Edmonton. Who can forget Mike Phillip? We now have Captain James McCormick as an official person on our little team. He's just the biggest cheerleader in the world, who happens to be a triple Purple Heart commander with a network of 400,000 people, Val. So we've got our little team, but you were the first vote, and I'll remind him later today that the second vote was from L. Gordon Kessler. We wanted to make sure everything worked perfectly, that we could indeed walk the talk. And that we could identify everybody who came in through the portal. We would be able to see. I get real time any comments that have been made on the website. I get real time into my email, so that maybe I'll make a little plaque for you or something, Val. The very first vote, March 2nd, 2023 at 12:03 p.m. How's that?
Just call me 001. Yes.
The other thing, I'll just jump branches here. Again, these types of conversations can go so many different ways, because really, I keep saying it, but there's 2 years behind it. And but again, I'll jump to kind of some to what I call the elephant in the room, and it's something I honestly have been working on until literally this morning, Val. Really, really, really trying to get a feel for it. From the very beginning, much like a CEO or a Las Vegas gambler, don't say that word, I've approached this, people don't realize this, but it's on the record, that I had the suspicion that this Alberta referendum could be a yes of 51% or more without any NDP votes or any Green Party votes. People would have to really do their homework to remember me talking about that, but I've talked about it on air and I've written about it. Where you approach it, okay, 40% of human beings in the world are going to be negatives or no's, and I think it's the 60% that we need to focus on. And the elephant in the room was there were 777,000 NDP votes in May. Trying to unseat Danielle Smith, Premier Smith. And I'm saying, okay, 777,000. There are actually two polls. They're real close as far as the exit, the election totals. But 770,000 people. Now remember, these folks have just showed up in May. Either by the mail-in voting or what have you. They were very, very successful with their off-site voting. And they had valid ID. They were these folks. They were eligible to vote in Alberta. They pulled the voting lever, as we say in the old baby boomer and senior days. So, what of those 777,000 folks? What percentage would vote yes or no? Because it is impossible, based on CEO and Las Vegas standards, for anything to be zero. So it's not zero, but we've been factoring in zero up to this point. So that has been a discussion, as you know, it's really been internal, because I've been trying to get a feel for it. Not what's satisfactory to some mathematician or bean counter or pollsters who are always wrong, and the experts are always wrong. I wanted to find out in my gut what the truth was.
So just to recap,
77.
You're saying you want to know how the socialists are going to vote, how the communists are going to vote, how the greenies are going to vote. You're breaking it down, and you're wanting to get a projection. Okay, so have you taken the time and talk to the people in charge at the top yet?
Boy, you're digging down to the investigative journalist questions again, aren't you, Val Olson of Val Olson News? That's this issue. Basically, call it the NDPs and the Greens, because the Greenies had 14,000 votes, a good chunk, and again the NDP 777,000 votes. Now, Val, remember this: I wasn't factoring those in. Think about that, how powerful that. So now let's factor him in. When you ask, did I actually drill down into it? I always get a smile on my face when I think about the Communist Party of Alberta, because I joke, I love my communists, Val. I love my communists. Because once again, they were documented on the voter rolls. There were 377 documented communist votes in Alberta. And my question was, because I don't believe polls or pollsters or anything, what's the true boots on the ground number? Was it 377? Was it more? Was it less? And so I reached out, and I think I've had at least 2 full conversations with the leader of the Communist Party, who's fabulous, nice gal. And even did a follow up to her, I'm thinking about 2-3 days ago, just to get the number. And I know it wasn't 0, and she knew it wasn't 0. She didn't know as much about her party as, let me say, maybe I knew. But it was determined that the number I was going to use for this was going to be 75. That there would be 75, because I was trying to get it from within the party. So that's one of those full disclosures of the 857,523. 75 of those are Alberta Communist Party, and I feel totally comfortable with that. How do you tackle 777,000 votes, Val? And we're talking the NDP. And here's where I'll go Greg Meakin on you first thing in the show here, okay?
Okay.
You're sitting down. I've already had plenty of coffee today, so I'm good. Have you had you had your peach tea, right, Val?
I had my peach tea because it really is the best. It's sweet, and it's the best way to start your day. In fact, if you visit my store, patriotswitch.com/Val, you can find all kinds of delicious treats on my store. Brand new store, by the way. Say hi, drop by. Carry on, Greg.
Nice. Well done. You know who was the best at that was Rush Limbaugh. He would promote sponsors, but he had to adore them, love them, endorse them, use their products and all that stuff. But he would weave it in seamlessly, and that's beautifully done. As a side note, and this is total third party, this is Greg Meakin, and you know, Val, I'm a lone wolf, right? I stay independent in everything in life, including, writing my press release before anyone saw it. You know how that goes, total independence. And I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed with the company Patriot Switch. I was actually, and I'm saying that not as an endorsement. There's nothing, there's no affiliation. I just like them. I go back further than you do with them, Val. And I just like their brand. I really like their products. I'm not a team member or anything else, but I just like them as a brand. I think we have a mutual friend up north in Alberta who's heavily involved in it. And bottom line, you have my blessing with Patriot Switch, not only the products, but the value and also the mission. It's all about mission. And everything I see from them impresses me in terms of their love of freedom, their love of American-made products. Maybe I'll have to do a commercial for them someday, Val. But
you know what my favorite thing is?
But it comes from the heart.
My favorite thing is moving from Alberta to USA. I couldn't go anywhere without buying products, and it would take me a half an hour using that goopy goop off stuff to get the made in China stickers off the bottom of everything. The worst when it's the food you eat. And here in the United States, and thankfully my mission with patriotswitch.com/Val, you will not find made in China stickers on anything because it is all made right here in the best country in the world, made in America. So that is what I love most. And it's all about quality and a standard. And we are the best for a reason, right? Integrity. And that's what this company is all about. So definitely, even if you're in Canada, we still ship to you. Don't worry about that. patriotswitch.com/Val. Back to you, Greg.
I'll be the first to say, and I've told you this many times in the last year and a half, Val, is I don't think you're a born salesman. I think you'd need kind of maybe training on that or evolving on that. However, what I said to you probably, again, year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, is the truth. The truth is easy to sell. You don't have to be a salesperson to sell the truth. Sales is not transferring a product or service to someone. Sales And you'll remember this, Val, but sales is the gift. It is the gift of transferring one's passion to another human being. And the cool thing about it is, Val, you're the best salesman to me right now, even listening to you talk about Patriot Switch. So there you go. Cheers to you. Cheers to you. The number I was, at least the point that I was on, we were talking about the elephant in the room, the NDP.
Yes.
And this is one of the few things that I've now concluded. Very rarely will I just conclude something based on just based on how much research and how many people I've talked to and how many people I've emailed just over the course of this last 6 months. And the one common denominator that I found is the end. Boy, this is controversial for me to say. I'm usually more diplomatic, but I believe that the NDP leadership at the upper leadership level, Val, I don't think they want a lot of their members to know the truth on stuff or knows just certain facts on stuff, period. It's called keeping secrets or hiding the truth. That's as controversial as I'll get. But I'll just be honest, and it's just me, Val, you know that. I'm full disclosure, op-ed guy. I couldn't get anyone to respond or return a call or an email. There was more secrecy around it than a Hunter Biden investigation. How about that? There's my statement of the day.
Okay, so
but it was true. But it was true, and it bothered me. It bothered me to the point where I said, okay, the whole mission of this poll, anyways, has been to talk to the people directly to the people. And in this case, I would talk directly, yes, no, or undecided, to the NDP people, not the leadership group, not the people who are pulling the strings, and definitely don't ask the media their opinion of things. That's a given. So I'll turn it back to you a little bit. I gave you a lot to digest there, but that was one of the big, I call it the elephant in the room, because I believe, and I won't even disclose here what my thoughts are. I think a huge chunk of NDP voters will vote yes once they learn the facts and learn that the NDP and any kind of socialist / really populist models, the big issue is funding, is social programs, which are great. Just say great to them. They're great. The problem usually is funding. How to pay for those programs, how to pay for this, how to pay for a true universal health care, how to pay for, and the answer of how to pay for it, how to fund it, is AB 51. So I just happened to, without knowing I was going to go on a little rant there, I think there's going to be a bunch of yeses, and my big question was, okay, what percentage? And I'll leave it off at that and let you digest it a little bit, Val, and respond or ask questions there. But maybe what your opinion is, because that's biting off a big chunk to make a broad brushstroke like that about NDP leadership, honestly.
Right. Like, you, just to recap here, you're saying that's kind of a secret from the inside, dealing at the very top. I am curious, and we'll go into it. So if we're talking about maybe the NDPs don't know everything, haven't been provided all of the information, and we're delving into leadership, I want to go to the very end of that spectrum and over to Danielle Smith's government, because word today, officially released July 31st, 2023, 857,523 yes votes. And as somebody who's a high integrity journalist from Alberta, and I really appreciate that I've been entrusted into the data center, Fort Knox, to to verify the votes that are coming in from 154 cities. And some of these places in Alberta, being an Albertan, you forget these tiny little places where there are people. They're not just numbers, on a government data sheet somewhere. These are real people and families, and have made Alberta who she is today. They're having their voices heard loud and clear, Greg. So back to you on that. I mean, it's just incredible.
And I think we just talked about the whole point of this. is for the people, for the people's voice to be heard and their vote to count. And we have come full circle. And the more I listen to and interact with the people, just the more convinced I am that indeed, here we go. I've said it a million times. There's so many frustrated people out there, Val Olson. There's so many people who have thrown their arms up, just given up. They have no control over anything in their life. And I'm as diplomatic as you get. My whole brand, Dueling Citizens, and is based on pragmatism, in crossing the aisle, in jumping on the ice, go punch your buddy in the nose on the ice, and go have a beer after the game. That's my brand. And sadly, I think, and I'm sure it's because of the internet, and I'm sure it's because of just professional operatives and all that stuff. Sadly, it's just become a great big confrontation, and the inability, honestly, to cross the aisle, or most importantly, to be able to say anything publicly, Val. I'm just, to this day, and if I never have one more day dealing with the Alberta 51 movement, which I will, but I'll be totally satisfied that I got a feel for this, and I got a feel for what's happening up there and what the people feel. And again, I'm, to this day, to this moment, as I sit here, I'm still really concerned about the people who still will not speak up, Val, and it's all because of fear. We've talked about that. Anyone that wants more information on these subjects, obviously just go back to our previous episodes or go to my YouTube channel. But I feel in my heart that pastors, I've said this before, that pastors do not want to speak up or put their names in a database up in Canada right now. This is my theory, because they're afraid of getting arrested. I believe there are politicians up there that I've called closet AB 51ers. Who indeed, if we're given 100% privacy, never affect their career or their job, their whatever, that they'd vote yes. Once here's the joke: once they've read the brochure, done a little bit of homework, it's a clear answer. So I'm still concerned about the folks who have never ever voted up in an election, and I now know there's hundreds of thousands. It's plural. I'm not even going to put a number on it, but they've never, ever voted up there. I'm concerned about the lost coins and the lost lambs and the folks who maybe are politicians that can't speak up, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't. If I were a politician in Canada right now, I'd be really concerned at speaking up, because it'll be the end of your career. It'd be the end of your career. So we come around full circle to the mission's the same. It's all about the people. It's all about what their real answer would be if they knew they were maybe in control of their destiny. It would be the folks coming out of the proverbial closet who would not have said AB 51 publicly in the past. What's that number? And I'll tell you what, right off the bat, I've been looking at a number well over 1 million, hitting on all cylinders, 1.1, 1.2 million. Yes, votes, but that's, I'm not even going to talk about that publicly. Then I come public with Val here. No. So that's who I'm concerned with. And so I'm saying between now, July 31st, 2023, and sometime after the fall of 2024, that these are the answers that Albertans themselves that can come up with. They can come up with the rest. And when I said it's the end of the beginning, that's exactly the way it feels. Feels like a wedding reception to me. You know, I don't know if anyone's ever been through a wedding or run a wedding, or but that feeling after everything's done and you get to sit back at the end during the reception, sometime you kick back and you say, this is the craziest number of months to prepare this and what we went through right up to the last minute. But now and then you just sit back and you say, yeah, this was great. And this is also worth it. But in the end, just like a marriage, just like a wedding, it is indeed just the end of the beginning. The beginning starts with your life together. So I'll probably turn the mic back to you on that note, Val, for your feedback. But I sure have been sharing stuff that I probably wouldn't have had I not just been in this space, being able to really converse about it.
You're addressing fear, and fear has crept into Canada, and there is a battle raging. And I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not hear all of the stuff going on regarding human rights violations on people. And a story just released over the weekend addressing the very fear and the loss of religious rights and freedoms that culminates in our referendum poll would be the story from this weekend. A Canadian pastor has moved his entire family to Kenya to escape persecution from the Canadian government after he prayed and sang the national anthem at a peaceful protest. This guy is a decorated veteran and chaplain and participated in a convoy of Canadian truckers opposing COVID-19 vaccine mandates last February. Okay? So he prayed the Lord's Prayer and sang the national anthem at the rally. And he goes on to just say how this hit his family so personally. He says he was threatened with removal of his security clearance and confiscation of his retirement funds, his kids' college funds, and other savings. His 5 children were mocked at school for their family's religious beliefs and political views. So, after enduring this mistreatment from their community, the family packed up and headed to Kenya, where he's now teaching Kenyan pastors. So if you don't think this isn't hitting the highest levels of government in Canada, a poll like this saying, hello, the majority of your province wants to leave, or you don't think that this isn't hitting on the US side going, well, do they want to come to the USA before they just leave and go to Kenya? Because that's just one pastor, trust me. I got a whole kit and caboodle full of them that I'm more than happy to talk to you and share their individual stories. And asked, this is the most important, ask, do you want to come back to Canada? You know what he says? In Kenya, I know it's poor and there's corruption, but we're not getting arrested for praying silently outside abortion clinics. Pretty sad.
Wow. That's a bigger statement than anyone can ever realize, Val. Kenya. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? My question to him, and I would love that. That's almost worth an interview down the road on one of your shows, Val. My question to him really would be delving into his experience with Canada, of course, but the why Kenya? Why Kenya? And I'm sure there are a lot of, actually, not only the United States, but I'll bet you there are a lot of havens around the world that would be a good, solid choice other than to get away. Honestly, sorry, everyone, but to get away from the oppression. It's called oppression that's happening up there. It's funny, Val, because I grew up with, of course, Canadians, imagine that, in Montreal. And one thing I did find about Canadians, and I don't know if it's a broad brushstroke, but I really found that they worry about what the world thinks of them, how they're viewed on a world stage.
Right.
And I took so much, as you know, Val, you covered it, but I took so much crap from my East Coast friends about Trump, what Donald Trump, how he made the U.S. look on the world stage. That I've heard him called a joke. I've heard him being called a number of things. And I'm sitting there right now, I'm saying, and I really mean it, reaching out to some of my friends, I'm sure, I mean it too. I'm sure I have friends who voted for Justin Trudeau twice, and I totally respect anyone's vote. But I'm sitting saying, does anyone have any idea what Canada looks like on the world stage right now, and especially your prime minister? Does anyone have any idea that Canada, honestly, Val, it breaks my heart because I'm half Canadian. But Canada is now a punchline on the world stage, Val. And I'm talking from everyday Americans. I mean, on the golf course, I heard a story the other day, just 2 regular American golfers in their 50s saying, hey, what's going on with Canada? and that prime minister, and that's on the world stage, and people in Europe are saying the same things. So it breaks my heart. But to any Canadians, honestly, maybe that was their last grasp, whether it's a symbolic thing for Ottawa or what Canada meant a lot to me, Val, because I grew up singing the God Save the Queen in elementary school because we didn't have a Canada yet. That was 1967, of course. 1967 in Montreal, I was 8, and we had the World's Fair, Expo 67. So Canada was a big thing to me. And it was also a really, really big, heartbreaking thing for me to leave in 1983. And I said to myself, I really did. I said, I hope I never go back to Quebec other than to visit family and to play hockey. And I can't believe I've said that. But now we look at 2023 right now, Val. And that's what I'm hearing from my Albertan people. That's what I'm hearing. And I mean, so many want to stay. I believe, honestly, as a side note, I think this is more kind of not an asylum thing, but I think that people love Alberta and they want to live up there, but they just need to live under the U.S. Constitution for a change. They just need to, for 10 minutes, to see what freedom feels like, to see what, and you're a walking, talking example, Val, because you're in Arizona right now. You feel the feeling of freedom. You know it feels different. So if this is a moment, if this is the beginning of the end of the beginning, I'm not going to come off. I'm not going to come off the love and concern I have for my Albertan friends that I've met since I started this almost 2 years ago. No matter what, I'll never forget all of you. And I'm talking thousands of people. I'm talking group leaders, big group leaders. I'll never forget you. And you know what? And you'll verify this, Val. We know who you are, don't we, Val?
That's right.
We know these are people, and we know their voice has been heard, and we know that they love their Alberta. But they need to be dating a new girlfriend for a change. They need a change of scenery under the U.S. Constitution. That's what they need. So there you go. I think that was an official monologue, Val. I think that was an official monologue or rant. There you go.
Well, I just want to recap for a second. You're talking about national level embarrassment, right? You get to that point in your life where you want to sober up, and wearing silly socks or dating the guy who's just a complete embarrassment. You don't want that for your life anymore. You want something better. And that's where the values really kick in. And that's why we're seeing such an uptick with our referendum poll. And we're in the territory that's called no brainer. We're in the no brainer territory. And I mean, anybody with a brain can sit back and look at the numbers, look at the charts. It's going up and it's just gonna keep growing. Like, how far are you gonna let it go, right? Like, that's my question for Alberta politicians. You want it over the million mark? Can we keep the poll going? Well, what happens next, Greg? Sorry to put you on the spot, but okay, now what?
There's a period of time between now and I'm looking at I'm targeting November 2024, the U.S. election down here, as the next tipping point. I've said very directly, very clearly, and very publicly that I believe this is a play, if you will, a movement with, of course, the United States Senate, but in a 2024 administration, a new administration. I've said that up front, very clear. I have no problem as far as networking and kind of working behind the scenes down here, but nothing's going to happen right now. Anyone who's close to this movement and who's followed my work knows nothing's going to happen. However, the heavy lifting is done. What is now time, just to go straight to the direct to Alberta folks up there, really now it's time for you guys to do your part. Val, you know my long laundry list there. It's time to lift a finger, time to do something. The billboards, the promotions, keep the message very clear. It's simply yes or no, Alberta 51. We're not looking to preach to the choir, to argue amongst ourselves. You need to reach out to the lost coins, the folks who have never voted before in an Alberta election, or folks, God love the NDP. And I'll maybe make a phone call or two to see if I can get more than 75 communists on board, Val, because I love my communists. They're just honest with me. They answer their phone and stuff, and they tell you what they're going to do and what their goals are. And that's the toughest thing to get out of politicians right now. What's the truth? What do you really think? So it's the old lift finger. You've been doing a fabulous job up there getting together the groups. The Alberta 51 project is fabulous. Please do an additional plugs for those guys up there. ab51project.com. They're great. Ben Ebel Statehood great group is great on Facebook. They're treasure trove of knowledge. But as I say, I don't want to sound like an old CEO here. Now's the time not to be discussing amongst ourselves. It's the time to promote a single idea out in the marketplace, especially to folks who are no's or undecideds. It's not a time to preach to the choir. I love the choir, Val, but I prefer to preach to the lost coins and the lost lambs. So if there's just a general, summary of where we're going from here, the bottom line, nothing in the world, I think, is going to happen conclusively till at least we get closer to the November election. So there you go on that one.
Well, that gives us time. All of you, we do have an exact count: 857,523 yes voters. I'm talking to you. We know that you represent 154 places across Alberta, and I just want to say a special good morning and thank you for doing your part. And don't be discouraged, because look, your hard work is paying off. Our referendum poll continues to grow and grow and grow. That's because of you, boots on the ground. And I was on a cross Alberta tour not that long ago. I was able to go from one end to the other and back again. And I fully intend on reaching you. We are expanding on the Alberta 51 podcast. If you haven't listened to the other 12 episodes, go back, take the time and listen and connect with your community of yes voters. Again, there are more of us than less of us, and we just keep growing. There's more than enough room, and it's all about personal connection. You are not a number. You are a someone and a somebody, and you are a history maker. Special good morning to our friends out in Bassano, Beaumont, Beaver Lodge, in Cayley, Caroline, Alberta, Cypress County, Coots, Cold Lake, Cochrane, Edmonton, Edson. I see you, Fairview, Foothills County. Good morning. And our friends in Frog Lake, hello. Thank you for listening. Keep your eyes peeled. We want to see those Alberta 51 billboards up everywhere. Do your part. Never underestimate the power of having your voice heard as you're hearing and seeing in real time. All of these yes voters. If you're an undecided, that's okay. Let's talk. Share why you're undecided. Listen to the yes voters. And yes voters, like Greg said, listen to the no voters. Get out in your community. I challenge you, where there's one, go and shoot for 10. Okay, set that as your goal. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, and leave as friends. This is the Alberta 51 podcast. We thank our friends and sponsors of the show. I am so excited that the doors to my store is now open, and that you can just shop to your heart's delight. This is where you get 100% American-made products delivered right to your door. In my store, on my shelves, there's over 400 products, and I could go on and on about some of my favorite, but I'm going to do one better than that, because if you're like me, you don't want to just hear about it. You want to taste it and see it. So this is special promotion to only you, Alberta 51 podcast listeners. You can hashtag honest convo. That's like how we can secretly chat, and I will hook you up with my favorite. I will make you a glass of peach iced tea. You can sample it right from my store. I will send that to you, okay? Hashtag honest convo. And all of you, go shop, go check it out. patriotswitch.com/Val. This is the Alberta 51 podcast. Greg Meakin releasing his numbers. Greg, I'm going to have you close out the show today. Just share what's on your heart before we shut our mics off. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Val, as ever. And I really appreciate that chance to kind of wrap things up. That's very nice of you. As ever, I thank you. You provided this platform. We'll be talking a lot more about this past year and a half, Val, as far as the beginning right to this moment and moving forward. There's so much behind it, and I'm looking forward to working personally with you on a lot of that stuff. For folks, I'll do quick plugs, and then I'll get to kind of what's on my heart. The quick plugs, of course, for folks who want to see this press release that was released by Val Olson. Thank you very much. You can go to my website, which is Greg Meakin. That's just my name, which is GregMeakin.com. On my trending section, trending has not only this press release, but a ton of information about AB 51. My YouTube channel, I'm so proud of it. I've kept it as a small kind of archive channel, but there's over 600 videos on there right now, approaching 15,000 views, Val Olson, 15,000 views since I launched it. So I do urge folks to go to my YouTube channel, and it really is a clinic of quick little clips about the issues. What's on my heart, and I want to leave off because I've shared a lot today and I blabbered a lot today. I thank you for that, Val. But the most important thing that I see right now, just as a pure salesperson, is what are if there's something that I would want to simply put, here we go, on a brochure. I believe a brochure, a simple 3-4 leaf brochure would have enough information on it to be able to give folks an informed decision on AB 51, yes, no, or undecided. And the number one thing, and this is what I feel is, I think in a lot of ways missing, Val, in a lot of the marketing that I see, in sales, it's called benefits. Okay, not a feature. A feature is what we spend all our time on a car. It's got this, it's got that, it's got this, it's got that. That's features. But benefits is how it is going to benefit, in this case, the voter, the Alberta resident. And I would pray that everybody up in Alberta keeps their good old Canadian citizenship and their homestead and loves life in Alberta, but they get to enjoy one of the flaps of the brochure. And I'll lead off with this. I'll finish off with this. I always ask you in a fun way to do reading assignments, Val, but I'm going to assign it to myself just to this time, just to show you I can walk the talk too. Benefits to the listeners. These are going to be the people who, and I'm talking the eligible Alberta voters. Benefits the minute that Alberta becomes the 51st state of the United States. There's a list of 17. They're going to be on the brochure, but I'm going to read them real quick here. Number one, and I say this because these benefits are really answering questions that I've been getting from hundreds, if not thousands, of Albertans. They're worried about their health care, Val. They're worried about their pensions and stuff. So here we go. There's 17 items. Number one. Okay. Dual citizenship forever. Number two, retain your Canadian citizenship. Number three, new Alberta health care. Just like Canada, but American world-class care. Like x-rays with no appointments and hip replacements in 21 days, Val. Anyhow, I digress. Number four, this is a biggie. Pensions guaranteed in US dollars. Number five, 45 cents per liter gas or less. Number six, groceries reduced 25%. And I'm hearing more on that, Val, right? You coupon
Yes.
shoppers.
Yep.
Number seven, 3 times the selection of consumer goods. Number 8, 75% less taxes. Hello, no provincial income tax, carbon tax, etc. Number 9, work at any U.S. company. 10, unrestricted travel to 50 other states. Number 11, for a guy from Quebec here, no language laws, period. Number 12, household income jumps 25%. Household income jumps 25%. Do the math on that. Number 13, easy to start a business. Number 14, free to own legal firearms. Hello? Number 15, 50% lower utility bills. Number 16, Val, you can attest to this. Choose from 3 to 5 schools for kids. No cost education. And number 17, by popular demand, cell phone bills drop to $75 a month or less, like $50, $75. So there you go. That's the list of benefits. That's the list of benefits. That's what I believe. And this list has been around for a while. If people want to add to it, throw in their 2 cents, great. But that is on the AB51vote.com website, Val. You'll remember. It's so important because all I believe people need is a little brochure. And because all the 17 things on this list, Val, 90% of Albertans have no clue that this is going to happen. I'm just saying it, just telling you. And they can't picture it. They can't picture 50% lower utility bills. They can't picture royalties from the government for oil profits. Alaska residents get royalties once a year for oil profits. Hello? It's been as low as, I think, $1,200, as high as $20,000 to Alaska families. Do the research on that. So those are called benefits, not features, not history, nothing against that. But these are benefits to everyday Albertans, and that they can make a difference. And all they have to do, you'll verify this, Val, the list that I went through, Val, you enjoy that already in Arizona, most of it already.
Call it what it is, Greg. That's called life in the USA, the upgraded life.
Yep. That's my sign off. God love you, Val. We'll see you next show. There's going to be a bunch coming here, a lot of content coming, Val.